What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. So I literally just ended the previous video that was posted before this one. So if it looks like I'm wearing the same shirt, it's because I am. I'm literally just filming it the same day, probably like 10 minutes after I ended the other. But today we finally have the first mod for the S2000, at least first major mod. Of course, I posted videos about the S2000 on the channel before already. So today we are going to be installing a Momo steering wheel along with the quick release hub and the short hub adapter for the S2000. I ended up getting the mod 78 steering wheel from Momo. And I thought this one looked the best in terms of, like, you know, the cleanest look, something that is very minimalistic. I like clean looks in my car. I think this was a very, very clean look, especially with it being leather. I could have went suede, but I didn't want it fading in, you know, in time. I just kind of wanted to keep it the same. But I think leather is gonna look real nice. But what I also have in here is I also have the Honda horn button that I'm going to be putting on in the middle. I can of course use the Momo home button that it came with, but I thought having a clean look with the Honda emblem for me was just something that looks very clean. So just to go over the parts before we do actually install everything, we do have the mod 78 Momo steering wheel. The horn button, you can do multiple options actually with this. You can get the authentic Honda NSX horn button. That's where I got the inspiration from. But crazy enough, those horn buttons actually go for about $200. Some of you might be thinking to yourself, like, damn, $200 for a horn button. I was thinking the same thing. I actually got this one off eBay. And for those of you in the comment section, some of you are gonna be like bro, like, this car is supposed to be top tier. You're supposed to have the best products. In all honesty, I don't think, at least in this point in time, I don't think I can justify spending $200 on a horn button. Maybe down the line I'll end up replacing it, but I see nothing wrong with it just being for looks. We do have the Works Bell quick release hub right here, and then we do have the S2000 short hub adapter right here. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this install. And with every install that you do with the airbag, you always want to disconnect the negative terminal on the battery, just so the airbag doesn't smack you in the face. So the first thing what you want to do is you want to make sure the steering wheel is straight. We made the mistake of the steering wheel being just a little bit off, and I just wasn't as satisfied. So I'm going to try to film this as best as I can. This car isn't a very big car for me to operate in. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to remove the airbag on the stock steering wheel. There's going to be these two doors on each side of the steering wheel. So you're going to see these two notches, one right here and one right here. So the process of removing the airbag is actually pretty simple. You are just gonna go ahead and remove this sensor. So now that the airbag sensor is removed, you can go ahead and use a Torx head to remove the bolts that are holding in the airbag. So now that you have both bolts off on each side and the airbag is disconnected, you can now completely remove the airbag. Yeah. And then you will see it disconnected back there. So you just have to remove the wires and you should be all set to go. So before we get into the fun part of actually taking off the stock steering wheel, we're gonna have to disconnect all of the cords, connecting to like the cruise control, the horn and whatnot. So you're just gonna go ahead and disconnect this guy. You can just pull this out, pause, and then just take it off. And then for this one, you kind of have to push this piece towards the car and then pull it down, so like this way. Probably, there we go. So that's gonna be about it for that thing. There we go, come on, work with me. There we go. So the socket size you will need to take off this socket that's holding in the steering wheel is a 14 millimeter. What you wanna try to do is you wanna try to not move the steering wheel when you're loosening this bolt. Just because you don't want it to move and then you have it 100% and then it moves and it's like kind of crooked. Try to hold it with your leg or something like that. If you have a friend, just go ahead and have them hold the steering wheel while you loosen this, just so the steering wheel doesn't move and you have a straight steering wheel. I'm gonna try to work smarter, not harder. I'm gonna get the impact wrench and see if I can just take this thing off. Let's hope this works. Bro, this thing is dead. Rip. All right, take 3. Oh. Let's go. So now really comes the fun part of actually taking off the steering wheel. Rule of thumb though is once you get this 14 millimeter bolt off, don't completely remove it. You just want to thread it in, maybe just like, you know, maybe just a little bit. I don't want to say like, maybe a little bit less than halfway or halfway, just so that this isn't moving. Because when you pull on this steering wheel, you don't want to like yank it and then it's gonna like smack you in the face, you know what I'm saying? That's gonna be the last thing you want. Taking off the steering wheel, you just straight up just yank it and you completely get off and you just like have like a two black eyes because you got smacked in the face with the steering wheel. And not because you got into a fight, it's because you're trying to take off your steering wheel. I'm gonna see if I can get it in as least amount of tries as possible. Gotta hit it from the pressure points so that it weakens and then. Attempt number 2. Let's go. It sucks. Bro, I'm starting to get a little sweaty. Gotta take off the hat. Oh, this. Finally. Yeah, go. So now that we have both wheels off, or at least the stock wheel off, this one is, you know, of course going to be significantly heavier than this one. But if you're looking at it in comparison of size, the Momo steering wheel is a 350 millimeter. And it just looks like the stock steering wheel is like a 360, so maybe not even that big of a difference. If you guys were opting for the tilt option, which I was actually looking into, from what I've heard, the 320 millimeter steering wheels will clear. So what you have here now is you do have the short hub adapter. This one is of course the adapter. At the 12 o'clock position, this is where you're going to want to place the top of the hub. There we go. There's this little notch right there. You're gonna make sure that it's lined up at the 12 o'clock position. All the instructions that came in the box are in Japanese. As much Duolingo lessons that I do, I don't think the Duolingo lessons accounted for trying to install any car parts. But in the box, it did come with a bunch of adapters that we will need, especially for the SRS light for the airbag. If you're really anal about it, you can just keep adjusting it until something satisfies you. But I think this is pretty good. And then you will use that 14 millimeter nut that you choose to take off to install that back. And then you're gonna torque this down to 29 foot-pounds. Now we're gonna go ahead and put the resistor on so that you don't get an SRS light for this for the airbag. For the 2003, I am going to be using this adapter. It is the female, and then you will connect the male resistors that is in the yellow plug. We're gonna finally go ahead and work on the Workspell hub. This ring right here is gonna go on the back side of this part of the adapter. And this adapter is gonna be on the actual hub on the car. And this isn't going to be moving anytime soon. So this little piece that is sticking out is gonna stick into the black resistor, this little black resistor right there. And then this red one is gonna be connected to the horn that's on the hub in the car. And this piece also has that little notch at the top. Hopefully you guys can see that. Well, anyway, underneath that little hole right there we go. Hopefully you guys can see that. There is a little notch right underneath that hole just to signify where the 12 o'clock position will be. So this is how it's going to look like when you have everything connected. This is the back of the adapter. So you have the black routed to the ground on this ring plate, and then you have the red wire connected to the black cable coming from the car. And then what you're gonna wanna do is just gonna wanna line up the notch at the top, just so that it's 12 o'clock. So now we are almost done with this install. The last thing we need to do is connect the steering wheel to the hub adapter. And then we're pretty much good to go. So before you start doing anything like this, you're gonna wanna take out this little ring that is on the inside of the quick release. This is gonna be going on your steering wheel so that when you have your emblem, everything can just slide right in. Pause. We'll leave that to the side right there. And now you can go ahead and place this ring right there. Just make sure you have the notch, and I want to say like 5 o'clock or so. Connect the black wire to the little notch that is sticking out. And then this portion is good to go. So in the packaging of the Momo steering wheel box, it did come with the Momo horn, and you do have the Honda. So I do have options for both. So now what's next is this little ring that you took off from the quick release. You're gonna wanna put it behind the steering wheel. As you can see here, the little ring has a shorter end at the top and then a longer end at the bottom. I don't know if you guys can, there we go. So as you can see, there's a shorter end at the top and there's a longer end at the bottom. You're gonna wanna put the shorter end on the back of the steering wheel. So just like that. And then you're gonna get your emblem, whether it's the Momo, whether it's the Honda, or whether it's, you know, another logo that you have for your horn. So now that the ring is on the back of the steering wheel, this is how it looks like with the Honda emblem. I think we should be almost done. So I think all is left is to just install this quick release. So that's how the wheel looks like. It actually looks pretty good. Or the quick release actually looks a lot smaller than I thought. I thought it was actually gonna be a lot thicker, but it looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and try it on the car. Let's see how it looks like. Skip. Ooh! It looks pretty good. Is it off though? It's a lot more violent than I thought, but one thing I did notice is that people were mentioning is that once you have the quick release, the signals and the windshield wiper controls are going to be a little bit further than normal. So that's just something that I'm going to have to get used to. But it actually looks really good. I'm not going to lie. I like the Honda logo, but I think the real test is to see if the horn works, because that's one of the main functions that I wanted to keep. Bro. Rip. Well, I guess my wiring is garbage. On another day when I feel like I want to do it, I'll probably end up taking this apart and figuring out what the hell is wrong with the horn button, because I followed the instructions to the T, still the horn button doesn't work. So it's either the button is faulty and that's why I paid for a red button, or I did something wrong. Just a quick update, we were literally about to leave the house to get some boba, because you know, when you finish an install and it's nice outside, you kind of just want to treat yourself for some boba. But unfortunately, we didn't get to, because I heard some rubbing whenever I turned the steering wheel. Everything works, everything looks great, and everything is just a vibe right now. Everything is just literally a vibe. Let me just explain exactly what was happening. When we were about to leave, I was turning out of my driveway. My dad was helping me move the car, and he was like, it feels like the car has no power steering. And I freaked out, because I was like, bro, I didn't do nothing with the power steering. I ended up taking everything apart. I thought the bolts that goes into the spine for the hub, I thought that was tightened too tight. So I ended up loosening it twice. But what ended up happening was that the rubber piece on the short hub was touching the plastic part on the car. This hub was touching this plastic part attached to the car. So what I ended up doing was I ended up cutting off one of these like little ribs closest to the thing, close to the plastic piece, and now everything works fine. If you guys run into that problem, that was what was happening with me, and now everything is back to normal. The only thing I have to figure out is the horn. The horn does not work. There's either two things. One is the wiring that I did, but I also think it might be the horn button itself. I get what I pay for, but you know, it is what it is.